Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we're going to be looking at the SH Figuarts Iron Man 2 Mark 6 Iron Man figure. You already saw the War Machine review. If you haven't, you can check it out by following the link that's right there. Super great figure. This one is too. For a quick comparison, you can see here, War Machine's a little bit, that's not the right one. That's the wrong War Machine. This is the right War Machine. Super great figure. War Machine's just a little bit taller than Iron Man, just a little bit, definitely a little bulkier, but still great figure. So check out that review. And this Iron Man, we'll do a quick comparison with the Marvel Legends style movie version of the same suit, which people think is a really good figure. I agree, it's a pretty good figure, but compared to this one, the old one just doesn't really stack up. Size-wise, they're almost identical. Might as well give you a height comparison real quick, or a height measurement. He stands just under 6 1/4, about 6 1/8 inches tall. And just so you can see, compared to the movie release, now the movie release has some things that are a little bit more accurate, and of course the SH Figuarts has some things that are a little bit more accurate. Neither of them are exact. The Figuarts tend to have a little bit of a comic styling to them, even though they're not technically from the comics, but it's still so darn close, and once you get it in the right poses, it looks perfect. So even though things aren't exact on this one, they're not on this one either, and this one's so much better. So let's just talk about it. It's an absolutely great figure. The paints are phenomenal. The sculpt is phenomenal. All the sculpting is super clean. Looks like it was made by a high-end futuristic computer like his suits were in the movie. It just looks so nice. There's a little piece of see-through plastic, clear plastic for the chest, for the arc thingy. You can see in there's all kinds of detail. Tons of detail just everywhere. It looks so good. Sculpting is top-notch, paintwork is top-notch, it's nice and metallic. The golds, the reds, the silvers, it looks so good. It really does. It looks better in person than it does on camera, I'm sure. So if you get one, be prepared to be surprised at how good it is. As far as the articulation goes, he's got quite a bit of articulation. The neck itself is articulated. It has a big hinge forward and backward. It does move side to side, so it's probably on a ball peg, but it has a great range of motion for doing whatever you want to do. And then the head is on a double ball peg, so plenty of articulation for the head. The ball spins at the top and at the bottom, so you'll be able to move the head however you want to. I don't suggest you pop it off just because there's really no reason to, and now I can't get it back on, and you may have the same problem. There we go. Alright, so back to the review. So the shoulders have the SH Figuarts style ball peg, so that swivels around inside a moving socket, and that is connected to a ball hinge, where the shoulder pad is connected to the inside of the hinge, not the outside. So watch what happens when I move the ball hinge. The shoulder pad stays right where it belongs, and it has the hinge on it as well. So it's never going to get in the way. It looks good no matter what. Really a nice piece of articulation. There's a bicep swivel there, double jointed elbow. Here's a really nice thing too. The little elbow pad is on a slider, so that you can move that however you need to make the pose look better. If you want it back farther or forward farther, you can do that. So that's just a little thing they didn't need to do, but they did. The hands are just on simple ball pegs, not too much going on there. And it's actually a problem because you can't get the hands to fold up like a repulsor blast, so it's a little bit of a problem. There's only one set of hands that's actually sculpted for that. And the cool thing about the hands, and I don't want to get into the accessories yet, but the little shield thingies, they pop off because each set of hands doesn't get its own. They pop off and they are hinged, so they can work with any set of hands. They don't get in the way of the articulation. So that's pretty cool. We'll talk about those more when we get to the accessories. But they just tab in right there, nice and simple. Super effective, really good design. The torso has all kinds of pieces of articulation. This is separate, this is separate, this is separate, and the torso, the top part is separate. So pretty much no matter how you pose him, it's going to look good. It's basically designed like a Hot Toys figure, only it actually has a pretty good range of motion of articulation. So super nice there as well. The hips are on their ball hinges or ball pegs that are hinged. So when you have them up normally, you don't get the best range of motion. Even though Iron Man's actually pretty good about it, you can drop it down, you can pull it down this way and really get a good range of motion out of them. Bring that leg up or sideways. You can also pop it off if you're not careful, but you do get a really good range of motion due to that extra bit of articulation inside the groin, which is really cool. So it moves around on the ball peg, and then the thigh swivels around that as well. So really as much articulation as you can pack in there. They did double jointed knees, pretty good design, looks pretty good no matter how you pose it, so no complaints there. The ankles have a hinge, a swivel. Of course the swivel's stuck. Is the swivel stuck on this one? There we go. So there's a swivel, a hinge, there's an ankle rocker, and a toe hinge. And this is a separate piece here, so don't worry about that getting in the way. You can just bend the toe up and you'll be alright. So pretty good range of motion all around. The feet are die cast, so they're heavy. They will keep the figure standing in place relatively well, and that's pretty good by me. Now let's talk about accessories. Let's talk about the movable armor pieces first. Now not like War Machine, his actually have to pop off and be replaced, which is kind of a buzzkill, you might say, but it's still okay. It's not the best, but it's still perfectly fine. So these little calf pieces pop off. It's a little tricky, but you can pull them out. Be careful, there's very small tabs. Don't throw them like I just did. And it's really nicely detailed inside, and once you take those off, you can attach these, which are just simply the same piece that stick out. So there's no hinge on this one like there is on a War Machine. It's just a separate piece, but that's still pretty cool, I think. Let me pick up the one I dropped so I don't lose it or step on it, and I'll push that back in. You can do that on both calves. You don't have to, you don't have to, but you do have that on both sides if you want that. Then the other one, this is a little trickier even. You have to pop the shoulder pads off, not the shoulder pads, the neck area pads, I don't know what you call that. So those pieces right there come off on both sides. This is the same on both sides. And then this piece comes off, and that comes off straight up. So it's a little tricky to do, but it's nicely detailed on the inside again. And for this one, what you do is, did I grab the right one? Did I not? Okay. Alright, so for this piece, you just, no, that's the wrong one. They look the same, by the way, so you're going to have to figure out which one goes where. So they just peg in right there. Now these don't peg in all that well, you have to be careful. This one fits fine, the other one doesn't fit quite as well for me, so be careful with that. So those just peg in there, they're permanently in that position, and then you just close this back up. Don't put it on backwards. And you can't tell that it was ever not like that. I do wish it was hinged like War Machine, because that's kind of a hassle, but it does work, so that's okay by me. It looks pretty cool. Either way, I'd probably not use the up pieces too much, especially since it's a pain in the butt to use them, but you do have that option. So that's always nice. Anytime you have options, it's good. We'll close that back up, and let's talk about the hands. We'll get to the blast effects in a second. So like I said, for the hands, none of them are able to do like a repulsor blast due to the articulation. So that's kind of a bummer for me. I would much rather have all of the hands be able to pose like that if you want them to, but it's not that big of a deal. So one of the sets of hands we get is a solid closed fist hand, and it's the same for both sides. I don't need to show you both of them each time. So we have a closed fist hand, pop that off, pop that off, and then we have an open palm hand, which looks like it would be for a repulsor blast, except you can't pose it in a way that actually makes it work. You can't bring the hand up all the way. That's as high as it goes. So I'm not really sure what you're supposed to use that hand for, but you do have it. Then we have a relaxed hand, which is on this side, so I'll just show you that one. It's just relaxed, separate fingers, not really good for anything but kind of just standing there hand. And lastly, we have the cool hand that gets all the stuff done. This is the repulsor hand. And what they did, instead of putting the peg hole in the hand and pegs in the repulsor blasts, they put the peg in the hand, which I'm not a huge fan of because it doesn't work unless you put the effects on it. Otherwise it just looks like he has a thing sticking out of his hand. But it does work for the repulsor blasts, so I'll show you that. We have two different ones for each side. We have two big ones and two little ones. The big ones are for shooting effects, and that looks pretty good like that. So it looks like he's firing a repulsor blast, which is cool. Or you can use the smaller effect, and you get two of each again. The smaller effect, which I think looks good for the repulsor blast too, but that's more for like if he's flying as a stabilizer one. So that looks pretty good too. They're all translucent plastic with a little bit of orange and yellow and white on there. So that's pretty cool. And then lastly we have, if I can get it out, it's kind of hard to get all these things out of the packaging. So lastly, we have two of these big guys, which is similar to the War Machine ones. It might be the same as the War Machine, I'm not positive. And those just peg into the feet, and those are for flight. I'll get the other one out too, just to show you. So those are his flight ones, which look really good. Of course, you have to angle them the same way, but looks nice, really nicely made. Everything about this figure is nicely done. Really couldn't be happier with him. Those few things I mentioned, those are just things I might have done differently if I was designing the figure, but it's nothing that I'm going to complain about actually. So let me put him in a quick little pose for you, and then we'll call it a day on the SH Figuarts Iron Man. Such a good figure. I actually like this one a little better than War Machine. I know most people are probably going to not agree with me on that one because War Machine comes with all the guns and stuff, but Iron Man with the red and gold is just such a cool display piece. So I would pose him just a little something like that, put the legs in a nice pose. And with all the articulation this guy has, you really won't have any trouble posing him at all, making it look natural. No problems doing that. The legs are articulated nicely, the hands are. Everything's good on this guy, so I do recommend it, guys. It's such a good figure. Go pick it up if you can. Check out the War Machine review, and stay tuned for other figure reviews and custom figures and good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.